The neon lights of the hamburger joint flickered in the misty night, casting an eerie glow on the empty street outside. It was my first night shift, and the thought of working alone in this dimly lit place sent shivers down my spine. I was a young female student, desperate for some extra cash, and this job seemed like a quick fix. Little did I know, it was going to be a night I would never forget. As I wiped down the counter, the rhythmic hum of the refrigerators was the only sound that kept me company. The air inside was heavy, suffocating, like a weight pressing down on my chest. I could feel a strange presence lurking in the shadows, something that made my skin crawl. Trying to shake off my unease, I focused on cleaning the greasy grills, the sizzle and crackle of the remnants of the day's orders providing some comfort. Hours passed by slowly, the hands of the clock inching towards midnight. The orders had ceased, and a heavy silence settled in. Just when I thought things couldn't get any more unsettling, a low whisper echoed through the empty restaurant. My heart skipped a beat, and I looked around, my eyes darting from corner to corner. There was no one there. I told myself it was just my imagination, that fatigue was playing tricks on me. But then, the whisper came again, closer this time, as if someone was standing right behind me. I spun around, my eyes wide with fear, but the kitchen was empty. The chill that ran down my spine wasn't from the cold, it was something far more sinister. Summoning all the courage I had, I returned to my cleaning, attempting to push away the thoughts that were gnawing at the edge of my mind. The fluorescent lights above me flickered, casting erratic shadows that seemed to dance around me. And then, I heard footsteps, soft, deliberate footsteps, coming from the direction of the storage room. My breath caught in my throat as I turned slowly to face the source of the sound. The storage room door was slightly ajar, a sliver of darkness beckoning me inside. I tried to rationalize it, maybe it was a rat or some other small creature. But the footsteps grew closer, heavier, as if they belonged to something much larger than a rodent. My heart pounded in my chest as I took a hesitant step forward, the floorboards creaking under my weight. "Hello?" I called out, my voice barely more than a whisper. There was no response, just the sound of my own voice echoing back at me. With trembling hands, I pushed the door open wider, the darkness within seeming to swallow me whole. I flicked the light switch, but the bulb remained stubbornly dim, casting only a feeble glow. As my eyes adjusted to the dim light, I saw something move in the corner of the room. My heart raced as I focused on the shape, a figure, hunched over, its back turned to me. A cold sweat broke out on my forehead as I took a cautious step closer, my breath catching in my throat. "Excuse me," I stammered, my voice quivering. "Are you lost?" The figure remained motionless for a moment, as if contemplating its response, and then, slowly, it turned around. I gasped, my hand flying to my mouth to stifle a scream. Its face was twisted, contorted, a grotesque caricature of a human. Its eyes were hollow sockets, and its grin stretched unnaturally wide, revealing rows of sharp, jagged teeth. I stumbled back, my heart pounding in my chest, every instinct in me screaming to run. But before I could move, the figure let out a low, guttural laugh, a sound that sent chills down my spine. It started to move towards me, its steps deliberate, its gaze fixed on me. I turned and bolted out of the storage room, my heart racing as I sprinted towards the front door. The neon lights outside offered a welcome escape from the darkness within. I burst out onto the street, my breath coming in ragged gasps. I dared a glance back at the hamburger joint, half expecting the figure to follow me, but the doorway remained empty. Whatever that thing was, it had stayed behind, confined to the shadows within. I never returned to that place again. The terror of that night stayed with me, haunting my dreams and making me question the thin veil between reality and the unknown. I quit my job the next day, my need for money overridden by the need to distance myself from that malevolent presence. Even now, as I recount this tale, I can feel that figure's gaze on me, a presence that defies explanation, a horror that will forever be etched in my memory. So, the next time you pass by a dimly lit restaurant on a misty night, and you feel a shiver down your spine, remember my story. You might not be as alone as you think. The wind whispered through the trees outside, casting eerie shadows that danced across the walls of my dimly lit living room. I had been looking forward to this night for weeks, a cozy evening alone with my favorite horror movies and a delicious homemade hamburger. With my parents out of town, I relished the idea of having the whole house to myself. I had prepared everything meticulously. The hamburger patties were sizzling on the pan, filling the air with a tantalizing aroma that made my stomach growl in anticipation. The room was adorned with soft blankets and plump pillows, creating a cocoon of comfort on the couch. The screen flickered to life as the movie started, and I nestled in, ready to lose myself in the world of cinematic terror. As the opening scenes played out, I heard a faint creaking sound. I dismissed it as the house settling, an ordinary occurrence on windy nights. But then, the floorboards above me groaned as if in protest. I paused the movie, my heart skipping a beat. Maybe I wasn't as alone as I thought. I shook off my unease, chiding myself for letting my imagination run wild. With a nervous laugh, I unpaused the movie and tried to immerse myself in the eerie storyline once again. Just as I began to relax, a shuffling sound echoed from the kitchen. It was as if someone were moving things around on the countertops. I muted the TV this time and strained my ears. There it was again, a distinct rustling, like the crinkle of plastic or the gentle clinking of utensils. My pulse quickened as I clutched the TV remote, my knuckles turning white. I couldn't deny it any longer, someone was definitely in the house with me. Summoning all the courage I could muster, I tiptoed toward the kitchen, my heart pounding in my chest. The dim light above the stove cast elongated shadows that seemed to reach out toward me. Every creak of the floor beneath my feet sounded like a deafening thunderclap in the stillness of the night. As I approached the kitchen, a chill ran down my spine. The back door, which I had locked securely, now stood ajar. Panic surged through me, threatening to overwhelm my senses. Someone had broken in. But how? And why? My mind raced as I considered my options. I could call the police, but that would mean revealing that I was home alone, something my parents had strictly forbidden. I felt a surge of vulnerability, but I knew I had to confront the intruder myself. I slowly pushed the kitchen door open, my breath catching in my throat. The room was bathed in an eerie blue glow from the moonlight streaming in through the open door. And there, at the center of the kitchen, was a figure hunched over my half-cooked hamburger patties. I couldn't make out much detail, just the silhouette of a person. My voice quivered as I demanded, "Who's there?" The figure froze, the air between us thick with tension. Slowly, it straightened up and turned towards me. Moonlight revealed a pale, gaunt face, eyes sunken, lips twisted into a sinister grin. My blood turned to ice as I realized that this wasn't just an ordinary intruder. A raspy voice, barely above a whisper, slithered from the figure's lips. "Hungry?" I stumbled back, my heart racing as terror gripped me. This was something beyond the realm of normalcy. Before my eyes, the figure's form seemed to distort, elongating, as if its limbs were stretching. My mind struggled to process what I was witnessing. It was as if reality itself was warping. I turned and fled, racing towards the front door. The air was frigid as it hit my face, and the streetlights outside cast an eerie glow on the familiar surroundings. I didn't stop until I reached the safety of my neighbor's house, where I finally allowed myself to collapse in a quivering heap. When the police arrived, they found no trace of the intruder. No distorted figure, no sinister grin. They assured me that they would keep an eye on the house, but their words did little to comfort me. I stayed at my neighbor's that night, haunted by the events that had unfolded. In the days that followed, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every shadow seemed to hide something sinister, every creak a potential threat. The comfort of my own home had been shattered, replaced by a constant state of anxiety. I never found out what that figure was or what it wanted, and despite my desperate attempts to convince myself that it was just a product of my imagination, I couldn't escape the chilling memory of those sunken eyes and that twisted grin. My home, once a sanctuary, had become a place of unease, a reminder that darkness could lurk in the most unexpected corners. And as much as I longed for a cozy night alone, I knew that some horrors were too real to ever be truly escaped. The flickering neon lights cast eerie shadows across the dimly lit kitchen as I stood amidst the sizzling grills and stainless steel countertops. The scent of freshly cooked meat wafted through the air, mingling with the metallic tang of blood. My fingers danced gracefully over the assortment of knives, each gleaming wickedly in the low light. This was my sanctuary, my domain, where culinary artistry met a twisted, insatiable hunger for revenge. I was once a renowned chef, celebrated for my culinary creations that danced upon the palates of gourmands. But all that changed when I discovered my boyfriend's infidelity. The agonizing pain of betrayal, like a fire burning deep within me, transformed my passion for cooking into a sinister obsession. I sought to create dishes that not only satisfied the stomach, but also appeased my vengeful heart. The inspiration for my macabre feasts had come to me as I watched them together in a cafe, laughing carelessly as if my feelings meant nothing. I felt a sinister grin crawl across my face, a grin that would have sent shivers down anyone's spine had they seen it. In that moment, I knew what I had to do. The plan took form gradually, like an intricate recipe. I stalked them, studying their routines, learning their preferences, and most importantly, discovering their weaknesses. It was astonishing how much someone could reveal in their most vulnerable moments. As my plan took root, I prepared meticulously, gathering the necessary ingredients with utmost care. The night I finally executed my revenge, I could feel my heart pounding with a mixture of anticipation and trepidation. The moon hid behind a thick blanket of clouds, casting a veil of darkness over the city. Their apartment, just a few blocks away from the cozy little bistro they frequented, was my destination. Clad in black, I moved with practiced stealth, entering their apartment undetected. I had ensured their absence, choosing a time when they would least expect an intruder. My heart raced as I approached their bedroom, my breath held in a nervous silence. And then, I saw it, a photograph of the two of them, smiling joyfully, mocking me with their happiness. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms as the surge of anger fueled my determination. The sound of muffled sobs escaped from my lips as I got to work. It was a grotesque yet poetic symphony as my blades danced across their bodies, separating flesh from bone with clinical precision. The once pristine room was now a macabre canvas, splattered with crimson strokes. Hours passed, the scent of fresh blood and raw meat hanging heavily in the air. My hands were stained with their essence, and my soul was tainted by the monstrous act I had committed. But with each slice, I felt a strange sense of liberation, as if I was finally reclaiming a part of myself that had been stolen. As dawn broke, I stood amidst my grim masterpiece, the meticulously butchered remains of my unfaithful boyfriend and his lover. My heart, though heavy with the weight of my actions, also brimmed with a peculiar satisfaction. I knew that this was not the end, but rather the beginning of a new chapter in my culinary journey. In the coming weeks, my restaurant experienced an inexplicable surge in popularity. Diners flocked to savor my delectable creations, unaware of the sinister secret ingredient that lent my dishes an unparalleled richness. The satisfaction that came from watching them relish each bite was an intoxicating elixir, satiating my thirst for revenge and validating my newfound culinary artistry. But as time passed, a haunting realization began to creep into my mind. The memories of that fateful night, the echoes of their screams, the taste of vengeance, they all began to consume me. The line between sanity and madness blurred as I grappled with the consequences of my actions. Sleepless nights were haunted by grotesque visions, the walls of my kitchen seemed to close in on me, and the once savory aroma of my dishes turned into a nauseating reminder of my sinister deeds. I had crafted my revenge, but it seemed that revenge, in turn, had crafted me into a monster I could no longer recognize. The authorities never suspected me, for I had left no trace of my presence in that apartment. But I was haunted by a guilt that no amount of success or acclaim could erase. The very act that was meant to free me from my pain had shackled me to an existence that was more terrifying than any nightmare. And so, as I stand in my kitchen once again, surrounded by the trappings of my culinary triumphs, I am reminded that revenge, much like the dishes I prepare, can have a bitter aftertaste. The shadows cast by my actions stretch far beyond the walls of this kitchen, reaching into the depths of my soul. In my pursuit of vengeance, I had lost not only my humanity but also the very essence of what once made me a chef.